Hello, and welcome to the next THS Makerspace tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to be going over how to use Tinkercad. So first, we're going to go to tinkercad.com. Top left, we're going to do sign in, or if you don't have an account, you'll create one with join. In the case of this tutorial, we're going to be using the Makerspace account. We can see here, this is the account username that we have saved on this computer. If you're using it elsewhere on your Chromebook, this is all you got to use. Just click next, log in. Password is saved on this computer and the Makerspace. If you don't know the password, it is posted on the computer itself. So when we log in here, we're going to get to the account dashboard. Since this is the Makerspace account, you can see all of the Makerspace designs and the multiple pages of designs. Don't really mess with anything that's really over here. All we'll really ever do is create a new design and maybe search. Maybe you can look through the gallery of objects. But to start a new design, we're going to click create new design. And so it's going to open up with this workspace here. So this work plane is 200 millimeters by 200 millimeters square. This can be edited, the size, by clicking edit grid. And you can change it between millimeters and inches. I don't know what bricks is, but we're not going to be using that. And you can use different sizes, default sizes, or you can change it to whatever you want. We have a few different ways to move the camera. So the first is with the box up in this corner. If you click on it on one of these sides, it will change to this view. And you can also drag this box around to have different views. If you're kind of lost or something and you want to go back to the main view, you can click the little house and it resets your view. This function here will fit everything into view. You can also press F to do it. And since there's nothing in here, it won't do anything. You can zoom in with the plus. It goes by certain amounts. Zoom out with the minus. And this button here will change your view to orthographic, which to some people may look weird, but it does have its uses, and you click it to change it back to your perspective view. Mouse controls. If you left click the mouse, you will highlight objects. It doesn't actually move the camera around. If you right click and move, it rotates the world around. You can rotate the area. Mouse scroll wheel to zoom in and out. And if you use the scroll wheel click as a button, it moves it left, right, up, and down. And that can get you to zoom into a part of your piece, zoom out, and get nice views on your object. Now, to get your objects, we have all these basic shapes here. And there's also text and numbers. There's characters that you can use that have been created by the Tinkercad community. There's also these connectors things. They would theoretically connect to each other. There's also shape generators. You can go to the featured ones, or all of them. Many pages of them. For the most part, you'll be using basic shapes. So the basic one here is a box. So just drag it over. And its basic size is 20 millimeters by 20 millimeters by 20 millimeters. Different shapes, all these different shapes will have their own settings in them. They will all have a color selector, so you can change the color. And you can make them transparent, so you can see through them. And then you can make them not transparent. We'll go over the whole in a little bit. So, to change sizes of objects, if you drag the black square, it will change just that side, in or out. If you change one of the white corners, it will change those two sides. And if you use the white top, it will change the height of the object. The little black cone up here will shift the object up and down. And you can see this is how much I moved it, this is how far off the ground it is. So if I want it back on the ground, I just make this 0, and now it's directly on the ground. If you click off an object, it will deselect. If you click on an object, it selects it. You can rotate the object. You can sort of see the 3 directions here to rotate an object. If you want it to rotate it, if your mouse is inside the circle, it will snap every 22.5 degrees. And if it is outside the circle, it will snap every degree. You can of course type this in to be like 19.5 degrees, and it will be that. If you face the camera underneath, these 2 top ones will become on the bottom, and you can allow the triangle still does the same thing, and the bottom will just stretch the bottom now. If you hold shift while clicking one of the corners, it will change the entire object proportionally, so that you don't have to worry about changing the size to a proportional size. And then even if you type a number, it will still make it a proportional size. So let's just reset back, put this to a 1 centimeter cube. There we go. So now this is a 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter cube. It is in millimeters, so it will say 10 by 10 by 10. As you can see, there are grid lines on the ground. These are snap grid. It will snap to it. Each small square is 1 millimeter, and each big line will be 1 centimeter. You can change the snap grid to how much it wants, how much it is. Currently, it is every 1 millimeter. You can change it to a certain amount, or you can turn it off so it just goes wherever you want it. The snap grid also helps with you can also move objects around with the arrow keys. So if I click the right arrow key once, it will go 1 millimeter to its right, since the snap grid is at 1 millimeter. And you can hold it and it will go as far as you need it to. If you hold shift, it will go 10 times the snap grid. So since it is 1 millimeter, it will snap over 1 centimeter, which is 10 centimeters. If you can hold control, it goes up and down with the up and down arrow keys instead of left, right, forward, and backwards. So if you're holding control, it will not move left and right, but it will move up and down. If you hold control shift, which is going up and down at the 10 times rate, it will go up and down at the 10 times rate. This is useful when you want things to be in precise locations and you don't want to drag it and have to try and get it to line up with a specific location. The item parameters, they have special parameters on all of them. So these 3 will change the size. We don't really use these ones because they're not exact. They're a bit weird because these all say 20, and although they say 20, this is still 10 by 10 by 10. So these don't really make sense as how they work. The steps you cannot really see. You can't see them without using the radius. The radius in this situation with the cube just adds a curve, and if you do it far enough, it becomes a sphere. And the steps, now you can see, increases the amount of detail in the radius edge. So you can get a really nice smooth cornered cube, or if you drag it down, it becomes really edgy and very little edges. Now if you wanted to place something on top of this cube, there's 2 ways to do it. So say we want to put this cylinder on top. There's 2 ways to do it. So first I'm going to hold shift and drag this down so it's the same size, just that we have objects that are good size to each other. So we can place this in the same spot as the other one, as the edges are touching, and then we can use our black arrow to shift this up, and now it is on top. It's 10 millimeters up, which is how tall it is. It is now on top of the object. And with the sphere, with the cylinder, you have the same thing. You can increase the number of sides to make it more smooth. If you bring it down to the minimum, In this case, it goes to 12. The bevel does the same thing as the radius on the cube, and it adds a bevel to it. And the segments just makes that edge more smooth. So you can see it becomes more or less smooth the more segments you have on the bevel, and you can increase that bevel. Now the other way to get an object on top of it is you can drag this work plane, and if you drag this work plane, you can put it on the side or any object. So if you set it on top, the work plane now shifts up, and you can still see where the original work plane is with the blue square, and you can tell that it's not the original work plane because it's orange. And say I want to put a cone on top of this, I can now drag it and it's at this point. So I'm going to make this smaller too, so it's about the same size. I'll make it a little bit bigger. It'll be 15 here. Now I'm going to drag the work plane back. You just drag it off to the side, drag it off to the side, and it's back. And now it's blue again. With the cone, again, you have more variables with it. The top radius, in this situation, you can make it so that the top doesn't really become a cone anymore. If it's 0, it's a cone. You can make it as big as you want. Or you can do the same thing with the bottom. And you can have a stick. We'll just put that back. If you do Control Z is undo. And Control C, and then Control V, copy paste it. It will it'll just paste it on the ground, shift it over by half of the distance of the object. So you can see it's halfway shifted over the original object. You can press delete to delete the object, or you can use the little trash can up here to delete the object. There's also duplicate. If you do Control D, it duplicates it in that spot, and now we have a second object the same size in the same spot that we can then move around. Now I want these three to be in the same, I want them all to be centered. So I can highlight all three of these, and I can use the align tool here, and we get these dots here. So this will align them to the top side, the middle, they will be centered, and the bottom. I can align them to the right, the left, the center, or the left or the center. So we're going to align them to the center here. Now they are aligned in this direction, centered. And then we can do the same thing. You can align it to the right, the center, or the left. And it shows you where they'll be with a little highlighted sequence. So we'll center it again, and it is now centered on each other. And then we can just click off of it to get out of the alignment. Now all three of these are different colors, so we'll take account into that a little bit later. So if we want to group all these objects into one object, we will highlight them all, and we will select this object that says group. You can also do Control G, and it groups them. And it's going to change them all to the same color. So if we click the solid and we click multicolor here, it changes them back to their original color, and this is one object that I can move around. You'll also notice that the parameters, the special parameters, now disappeared. There's no longer any special parameters because this is not one special object. It is multiple objects combined. As soon as you combine two objects together, they lose their special parameters. And the only way to get them back is to ungroup the object and click on the object again. So they're not gone forever. So I'm just going to make this multicolor. Now the box here has, the box and the cylinder have their hole shapes. You can get them this way, or you can grab in the object and select hole. What this will do is when grouped with another object, it will create a hole in that object as based on the name. So we'll just make this 4. We'll try and make a little window in our house here. So I'm just going to make this so that it only goes in so far. And we're just going to line it up so that it is sticking 1 millimeter in with our object. Sort of. It's about 1.5 millimeters. out, so it's about a 0.5 millimeter in. So we're just gonna, I want to kind of put this in the center. So we'll align this on the center, and we'll put it in the center up here. Looks like a good spot. Maybe let's move it down a little bit. So we'll just move it down. There we go. Wonderful. Now we can highlight these two objects, group them together, and now we have a slight little hole. Wonderful. Not the best looking house, but it exists. And you may have saw me use the ungroup function, just ungroups it. And you can ungroup multiple times, and we can highlight all of these things at once and group them together, so that it is one grouping, again, multicolor. When it comes to shape generators, I prefer to use just all shape generators. And let's get this brick wall pattern. Now it's big. Now it has all these different parameters, as that's what shape generators will have. So you can change the size. Don't really want to do that. I'd rather change the size with these parts. We'll make this big enough to fit on our object. So we'll make it 10 wide, 10 tall. And we'll make it about 1 millimeter thick. Now it's a good size. We'll put it in front of here. And with this, we can change different things. So this one has a ground to brick, so this just increases the amount of space between these bricks. Change the number of rows, so you can have a ton of bricks in this situation. Why did it make it taller? Don't know why it did that. You can change the number of columns, so there are more or less bricks again. Noise just makes it variant differently. And again, you can play with more of these. So we're just gonna undo some of the noise there. There we go. And we'll just kind of place this front. Let's grab these two. We'll align them so that they are along the center. And then I'm going to shift it back. And we'll group them together. Now I just realized it's not even on the ground. So I can actually shift this up, not rotate it, shift it up so that it is on 0. Now I want to put bricks on all sides. So in this situation, we're just going to duplicate it, turn it 180 degrees around, and shift it over. And then we're going to select this object and select this object, so that's shift click to select just these two objects. We're going to duplicate them, and if we rotate them now 90 degrees, we now have bricks on all sides. And we'll group these together. Now we have a little brick house, and it's still multicolor. Wonderful. Not the best looking house, but who cares? Now something real quick, if you wanted to, let me just grab the wall real quick. So I'm just going to duplicate this and bring it over here. Regroup these so that it's one object. Now say I wanted maybe a hexagon area. Or something. So I want kind of a hexagon in this shape. Not a hexagon, probably an octagon of brick wall. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the duplicate feature here, and something interesting about it. It will repeat patterns that it sees. Now if you deselect an object, it will not work, and you'll have to restart it. So if we duplicate this, we're going to rotate it 180 degrees, and we're going to shift it over to here. Now we're going to select both of these objects. We're going to duplicate them and shift them we'll just go with 22.5. They're not going to be perfectly aligned. It's fine. Now if we duplicate again, it is going to remember this pattern of rotating these two objects 22.5 degrees, and do it again, 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 and do it again. Wonderful. Now we have this brick wall. Doesn't have the best outside, but it is fine. Looked great on the inside. That's all we care about, right? Everything on the inside is all we care about. And then we can group this. 16 objects. It's okay. And now we have a wonderful circular wall. Now what are we going to do with this? Let's put it around our house. Now let's make it a little bit shorter though. And the red lines that were there were for it rendering. So it was still rendering the object. You can still move it as it's rendering. Sometimes, if you have a lot of objects, it will take a long time to render. So let's just align these in the center. And we'll group them. So see, the red lines is it rendering still. Now there's one other shape generator that I like. Don't know where it is. We may find it, we may not. It is a terrain generator. It's kind of cool. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere. You can see our area has finished rendering here. Let's see if we can find it. There's not a lot of shape generators per page, so maybe many pages away. Who knows where it is? I don't even know how many pages there are. These are all community-made shape generators, written up with a little bit of code. That's not it. We may find it soon. Ah, yes, there it is. Terrain generator. So, it's a little terrain generator here. So, the number of divisions will increase and decrease. Kind of, how many more hills are there going to be? The randomizer, if you increase it or decrease it, just changes. Basically, it's just re-randomizing what's going on. And the smoothness can get you a lot more spiky hills or some real nice and smooth terrain. It's pretty cool, actually. Oh, see, no. There we go. Now it's rendered fully again. So we're just gonna drop the height of this a little bit. And we're just gonna make it our terrain underneath here. Now I'm just dragging this without shift clicking it. So now let's give it some actual terrain to our little world. Bring the smoothness down. Wait for it to kind of render again. And you can see there are hills along it. And you can see all the lines of the hills. It doesn't look quite wonderful anymore. Let's increase it again. See how it looks now. And you can see the hills on it, kind of going up and down along the walls. You can see the terrains inside. And for some terrain generators, you can view their code. We're not going to do that in today's episode. So let's just highlight these, center them, just so that our terrain is kind of centered with our world. And then we'll group them together. Okay, so it's still going to be rendering here. Now let's just quickly go over a few other things. So if you want to change your title name, you can just click up here and change it. Little tower. And then you just click enter to change it. Up here, you can go up here to switch between the different designs that you have and the settings of them. So if you go up here, you can make this public or private to other Tinkercad users if they search. Now, it hasn't really updated the name here, but it will. And this is just licensing. Just kind of say, some of them are basically just, can other people copy it? Can other people not copy it and download it? What can they do with it? Can they just view it? We won't go over that today, though. Okay, so we can import designs into Tinkercad. So it's up here. We can find a previous tower. Open this up. And this shows you how big it is, and you can scale it from here. Probably better to just scale it from actually importing. So you can import it. That's a big tower. Let's make it smaller. Much smaller. Let's put a little tower in our world. A little defense tower. We'll just put it right there. That's cool. Now we got a little tower. That's fine. They like it there. And you can kind of see there, it did a little wonky camera movement. That happens sometimes. If your camera ever gets messed up, you can always just click the little home button and reset your camera. And I guess we'll group these together too. And so we can just flip this by clicking this tool up here. We'll turn the flipping on and off so you can flip it up and side, down, left and right, front and back, if you want to flip objects around. Oh yes. For Tinkercad, when we want to go to export objects, we can come up here, click export. We will always use STL files to export to the printer. Object files can work, but they come with a little more extra stuff that nobody likes to work with. This is for laser cutting. Nobody knows what this is. So if you have nothing selected, it will default and you can only do everything in design. If something is selected, you can choose between downloading everything and just the shapes that you have selected. So if you click STL, it will download here, and then you can take that file and throw it into the 3D printing software. And that's it for today's tutorial. Hope this helped you out. Oh, you thought we were done. Oh, well, there's good thing you made it this far into the video. So there's a little fun thing about Tinkercad here. If we come up here and we click this little brick, it will make it out of Lego bricks. Now that's not very detailed, is it? That's very small. Well, let's increase our quality. It's going to become a little bit bigger. Sort of more quality. Still nothing really you could make. If you increase the quality more, much better, but because this is such a small object, you don't get a lot of detail with it. Shame. You can also do the same thing, but instead of making it with bricks, it's blocks. It's basically Minecraft. If you play Minecraft and you want to build something, but you don't know how to build it, you can just make it in Tinkercad, increase the quality, and it'll even tell you what to build it out of. It's pretty amazing, right? Yeah, everybody likes Minecraft. So you can just take a look at how it will be made out of blocks. And then you can go back to your regular design. And now that is it for the tutorial on Tinkercad.